I've always been fascinated by urban legends, those spine-chilling stories that seem too horrifying to be true. But what if I told you that some of these nightmarish tales actually have roots in reality? Tonight, we're diving deep into the darkest corners of human history to uncover the truth behind some of the most terrifying urban legends. Buckle up, because what you're about to hear will make your blood run cold. We've all heard the story of the Hook Man, right? A couple parked in a secluded lover's lane, a radio announcement about an escaped killer with a hook for a hand, and that chilling moment when they find a hook dangling from their car door. It's a classic campfire tale, but the kicker is, it's based on a series of very real, very gruesome murders. In 1946, Texarkana was gripped by terror as a string of brutal attacks left 5 people dead and 3 severely injured. The killer, never identified, became known as the Phantom Killer. And get this, he used a hook-like weapon in some of his attacks. The similarities to the urban legend are downright chilling, aren't they? Now let's hop over to Fairfax County, Virginia, where the legend of the Bunny Man has been terrorizing locals for decades. The story goes that an escaped mental patient, dressed in a bunny costume, would hang people from a bridge and leave half-eaten rabbit carcasses as a calling card. Sounds like something straight out of a horror movie, right? Well, hold on to your hats, because this legend has its roots in real events. In 1970, there were multiple reports of a man in a white bunny suit threatening people with an axe. In one incident, he even hacked at a home's porch roof, yelling about trespassers. The police never caught him, and to this day, the identity of the Bunny Man remains a mystery. Sweet dreams, I guess. You've probably heard the one about the killer hiding in the backseat of a car, right? It's a classic urban legend, often told to warn young women about the dangers of not checking their cars before driving. But, what if I told you this nightmare scenario actually happened? In 1964, a young woman named Marlene Walters experienced this horror firsthand. She got into her car late at night, only to have a man emerge from the back seat and attack her. Miraculously, she managed to escape and survive. The attacker turned out to be Albert DeSalvo, better known as the Boston Strangler. It's a stark reminder that sometimes the monsters in our urban legends are all too real. Growing up in New York, every kid knew about Cropsey, the escaped mental patient who supposedly lived in the abandoned Willowbrook State School. It was the kind of story that kept you up at night, peering out your window for any sign of the dreaded Cropsey. But here's where it gets really disturbing. In the 1970s and 80s, a series of child disappearances rocked Staten Island. The culprit? A man named Andre Rand, a former employee of Willowbrook. Rand was eventually convicted for kidnapping children, turning the Cropsey legend into a horrifying reality. The abandoned buildings of Willowbrook still stand today, a chilling reminder of the thin line between legend and truth. Now let's talk about a more recent legend, Slender Man. This tall, faceless figure in a black suit started as an internet creation, a piece of creepypasta that took on a life of its own. But in 2014, the line between fiction and reality blurred in the most horrifying way possible. 2 12-year-old girls in Wisconsin lured their friend into the woods and stabbed her 19 times, claiming they did it to please Slender Man. The victim, miraculously, survived. But the incident sent shockwaves through the country, showing just how powerful and dangerous these urban legends can become when they take root in troubled minds. It's absolutely chilling to think about, you know? We've all heard stories about creepy dolls coming to life, right? Well, let me introduce you to Annabelle, the Raggedy Ann doll that's allegedly possessed by a demonic entity. According to Ed and Lorraine Warren, famous paranormal investigators, Annabelle was given to a student nurse in the 1970s. Soon after, strange things started happening. The doll would change positions on its own, and notes saying, "Help me," would appear out of nowhere. Things escalated when a friend of the owner was allegedly attacked by an unseen force, leaving claw-like marks on his chest. The Warrens eventually took possession of the doll, keeping it locked up in their occult museum. To this day, people claim Annabelle is still active, waiting for her next victim. The legend of the Candyman, a hook-handed killer who appears when you say his name 5 times in a mirror, has terrified people for decades. But did you know this urban legend has its roots in a real-life horror story? In the 1800s, a man named Daniel Robitaille, the son of a slave, became a talented artist. He fell in love with a white woman he was commissioned to paint. But her father, enraged by their relationship, hired a lynch mob. They cut off Daniel's painting hand, replaced it with a hook, and smeared his body with honey, leaving him to be stung to death by bees. This brutal act of racism and violence became the inspiration for the Candyman legend, a chilling reminder of the very real horrors in our history. We've all heard the babysitter urban legend, right? A young girl is watching the kids, the phone rings, and a creepy voice asks, "Have you checked on the children?" Of course, it turns out the call is coming from inside the house. It's a classic scary story, but guess what? It actually happened. In 1950, a 13-year-old babysitter in Columbia, Missouri received a series of threatening phone calls. The caller asked if she had checked on the children, then chillingly said he would be there soon. Terrified, she called the police, who traced the call to an extension in the house. They arrived just in time to catch the intruder, a family friend who had been hiding upstairs the whole time. It's a stark reminder that sometimes the danger is closer than we think. As if what we've covered wasn't creepy enough, there are even more urban legends with ties to reality. Take the story of the killer clowns, for instance. In 2016, there was a rash of creepy clown sightings across the US, with some even attempting to lure children into the woods. Or consider the legend of the Mothman, which originated from real sightings of a winged creature in Point Pleasant, West Virginia in the 1960s. These stories serve as a chilling reminder that sometimes truth is stranger and scarier than fiction. So there you have it, folks. Urban legends aren't always just campfire stories or internet hoaxes. Sometimes they're rooted in terrifying truths that are far more disturbing than any fiction we could create. Next time you hear a creepy story, remember, it might be more real than you think. Sleep tight and don't forget to check your back seat before you drive home tonight. You never know what might be lurking in the shadows.